Ah, alright. This finally too seems semi-functional, I believe. That is, can you hear me? Ah, very good, very good. Good to know. Well, in that case, let's not delay any further. It's good to be back. Actually, speaking of delaying, I should probably close my window, because there are going to be cars driving by. Oh, yeah, let's turn that down. Well, I should start making bingo lists of all the things that can go wrong, because, wow. At this point, it's just, impressive, honestly. But I think it has almost reached the point where everything is functioning. If only... Oh, the bot is mostly there to just test if the multi-chat thing is working correctly, but... Oh yes, I should probably switch over to a more reliable... what's the word? Multi-chat application. Because this one is not without its issue, it seems. Do you want to work? Or not? Alright. Now we just have to... Well, there is a certainly similar dynamic. Honestly, I sympathize with... Hallelujah, there we go. Here we are. Very good, at last. So, it has been a little while, at least longer than I wanted, but, well, life has a way of getting in the way. I believe I've said that before, but it is true nonetheless. Glove of arting, where art thou? There thou art. As I said, I'm feeling, I'm in a pirate mood. Mostly because it's Pirate May, according to some people on the internet. So, naturally, pirates is what we shall draw today, which means... some actual figures. I'm thinking right now, I had a few motifs in mind. Oh yes, I did see that. The short, yeah, I love the, something FM, meme format. It never fails to disappoint, honestly. Just gotta make sure face isn't too large, and otherwise everything should be dandy. Yeah, something like that. Also. So yes, pirates, of course. It shouldn't become as too big of a surprise that pirates and piracy in general are a are a big part of this setting. Since, you know, Age of Sail and all that, it comes with the territory. As I've mentioned, most of the pirates, though of course this is by no means applicable to all of them, but the largest hotbed of pirate activity within the Grand Reach is the Tattered Sea. A vital trading route, but at the same time very tumultuous, filled with storms, treacherous reefs, the perfect place for people hiding away from the law, to hide out on and prey on unsuspecting merchant fleets, merchant ships. Constructing the face. Actually, my first impulse when drawing a figure is perhaps quite naturally to draw a human, but maybe we'll actually switch it around today and draw something else instead. Like a dwarf, for example. Pirate dwarf. This, do feel I have gotten better at constructing faces, but it still feels like a bit of a mad scientist sort of deal with, we'll try this, we'll try that, sure, why not. But then again, I think that's also a large part of the fun of it. Well, a beard full of shards, I think. Doesn't sound too pleasant, but actually, on a similar, or on that note, there are certain, there is a certain hierarchy on, especially on the, among the pirates of the Tattered Sea, and the most infamous among them, and the most powerful, are known as the Vagrant Lords, who more or less have something you could call an alliance. On a good day, at least. I should level this a bit more. The old use the top of the screen as a ruler trick. Oh, well, if it isn't Eule. Hello, how bid thee this day? We are drawing pirates today, or pirates singular, perhaps. We'll see how far we get. In honor of Pirate May. Currently just constructing the face, more or less. Yeah, actually, that is an idea I've previously toyed with, using, you know, although the idea I had was not in for a beard, but for clothing, having certain like accessories made out of etherite in your clothing, so they float, similar to being underwater. Right. Oh. Actually, I'm reminded of the fact, something that I need to keep in mind for next time is to find some stuff that fits the some background music that fits the pirate thingy a bit better, because I like this music, provided generously by the Evergreat Realis and his Cat Records, but you know, it's this particular album is Halloween themed, so it fits the whole eerie sort of horror vibe well, but you know, not necessarily pirates, so should go about finding some better music for that. Music that YouTube will hopefully also like. Oh! Well then, extend my greetings to your girlfriend, Eule, and my thanks for tuning in and the kind words. Yeah, I mean, tentacle beards are very cool. They knew what they were doing with Davy Jones in Pirates. It's I still think one of the coolest like monster pirate designs out there. All right. Next thing, yeah, maybe just pupils. Next thing wouldn't be much of a dwarf without a good beard, so let's fix that post haste. Full and bushy to protect the face from harsh maritime winds. Yeah, it's honestly, rewatching those movies, it's sometimes hard to believe how old they are. It has reached a point now where you can see the first, like, sort of cracks to form. You can begin to tell that it's CGI, but it looks so well. The motion capture, the, like, anatomical, precision of everything, it still looks extremely plausible. Which is not something you can say for most movies that old, or even quite a few years younger. I mean, when did Pirates 3 come out? Let me look this up. "2007. That's, oh my god. That's 17 years. Oh god, it's 17 years old. And it still holds up better than a lot of movies that came out in the last decade. Yep, 2007. I thought it was younger too, but apparently... I'm thinking what to do with beard, because, you know, dwarves traditionally have their beard in braids, but thinking like only a bit shorter around here, maybe with like one sort of braid. Yeah, it is truly remarkable how much the feeling of being extremely old increases over the years. Just at the beginning, it's like first things of, oh, I didn't know is a lot older than I remember, and then before you know it, it's just everything reminds you of time passing. Yeah, let's try something like this, maybe. Can always change it later. I think this needs a bit more volume. No, not like this. Yep, it marches ever onward. Still something off about the right side of the beard, but I'll figure that out later. Well, I mean, logically, dwarves have to be born at some point, so they have to be young at some point too. I think it's because the mouth is slightly off kilter. And just generally the lower face. Right, that should... no. Improve that shape a little bit. Yeah, I mean, of course. Or the beard was cut at some point. A great shame. Or he's you know, a modern dwarf that doesn't believe in the traditional ways, i.e., he prunes his beard, which, you know, unthinkable to more conservatively minded dwarves. Probably bald, but maybe with like, shame on your ancestors! Probably bald, but maybe with like a visible stubbly hairline. I wasn't there. Isn't the in Warhammer Fantasy the most like bloody, the first and the most single most bloody conflict between the elves and the Dawi in fantasy? Isn't it literally called the War of the Beard because something at some point happened to dwarf's beard? Um, I love Warhammer Fantasy dwarves. They're just special. In Mandalore's words, they are spiteful little motherfuckers. Right, a thick neck. And now for the torso. Probably pretty broad because dwarves may not be as tall as humans, but at least in this world, they actually look a lot less tall than they actually are because their proportions are just very different from humans, i.e. a lot broader, a lot bigger, just shorter. So, despite not being as tall as a human, they can have arms and legs up to twice as thick. Yeah, I mean, they did recently bring back the squats into 40k. I mean, the Leagues of Votan, but well, I mean, probably the name change is probably for the best. As much as we love it, it's yeah, basically. Or honestly, it's not too it's probably dwarves might even be on average heavier than humans, if not by much, because you know the height does account for quite a bit. You know, sturdy, strong, hard-working. Those are dwarves, all right. I mean, I don't have to be too exact with the anatomy, though. I do now have to think about the pose. Ideally, something a bit more dynamic than just standing there. Let's see, what are our options? So we have the torso here, then probably the pelvis here, somewhere around here, and then legs probably up to like here or something. So if we... So this would be sort of like default pose. Maybe if we change the angle here of the shoulders with interesting idea. I'm just gonna interesting idea, Moonwing. Don't mind if I just yoink. That's mine now. I came up with that. And you can't prove otherwise. Sec, I should have. All right. Listen, kid, it's just the way business works. Alright, so maybe... Well, of course, the head is a little bit static, so I'll have to work around that, because there's no way in hell I'm rotating that thing. But, you know, I can still change the facial expression at least. So, you know. Arm raised up high, something like this. And then, or maybe a little lower. This, and then something like a falchion in hand. Maybe actually foreshortening the whole thing a bit. Then the hand would be somewhere around here. And then, you know, a bladed weapon here. Well, of course it's not exclusive, but yeah, smithing and similar has always been a, in this setting, as in most, a strong suit of the dwarves, and I mean, there's of course dwarves that undertake other activities like sailors, you know, or farmers, but the need for competent smiths hasn't gone anywhere, and has in fact, honestly, with industrialization looming just beyond the horizon, increased, if anything. So dwarves very much still dominate the manufacturing, especially metalwork industries. actually in the Empire, one of the most what's the word, common races to find, especially in the core territories, because, well, they built a lot of the large cities, like, for example, the capital. Though that wasn't entirely built by dwarves, though they helped a great deal. Now what to do with the other arm? That is a wild thing to say out of context. How is the racism situation? But yeah, well, it definitely heavily depends on both the region and the races in question. In the Empire, it definitely exists, but who it's targeted against, and in what manner, by whom, it varies even there from place to place. There is this sort of Enlightenment idea, at least within the Empire, that you know, higher beings ought to be beyond such simple narrow-minded things as racism. Yeah, shield is an option, although not too piratey, so I was thinking something like a blunderbuss. So something like this, and then just kind of holding the thing like this, or, you know, we can still work that out. I'm focusing on this arm for now. So, you know, there is especially among the more, let's say, academically minded things, that, you know, racism is, or like bigotry is, you know, for the simple-minded, but at the same time, we also think that in the current day, and racism hasn't really gone anywhere, and at the same time, there is also a lot of the, you know, what in our history was the cultural Darwinism of, well, I mean, if these races aren't inferior to us, then how'd they get colonized, eh? Which definitely also exists, though obviously not against the races that are already integrated into the racist populations and so on that are already integrated into the Empire. Where there is still friction, but there are certain races that have had historically somewhat difficulty integrating, or, let's be honest, being integrated into the Empire, like, for example, elves, where their stemming from that is very much not only individual, but also systemic bigotry. Yeah, a bit like Roman racism, but also, you know, the you know, imperialist, colonialist sort of cultural Darwinism sort of racism present during the height of the British Empire, which, you know, was like, what's the word? I forget. The thing, not eulogy, God. The, I say in big air quotes, scientific, eugenics, That's the word. Which is not entirely unpopular, I'd say, within this empire either. Yeah, eugenics was basically the pseudoscientific. I don't even know what exactly it was, but it was like the belief that some genes were just predisposed to, for example, make you intelligent, a hard worker and stuff like that, but also that there is just a criminal gene, a gene that makes you a criminal, a gene that makes you lazy, a gene that so on and so forth, which it doesn't work like that, and obviously from this scientific belief, it's very easy to come to highly racist conclusions, which of course was the case with eugenicists. The belief that, white people just kind of had a gene that made them predisposed to, conquering the world. Yeah, bloodline racism, basically. It's both, both a way, eugenics in large part was just a way to justify regular racism with pseudoscience, and also sort of an attempt at trying to categorize still unanswered questions of, well, what exactly makes a person intelligent? How do we, yes, I mean, in a way, yeah, kind of, there is a lot of, a lot of kindred in the setting of Vampire the Masquerade in World of Darkness definitely are old enough to still have learned about eugenics in school. I mean, it's like, let me actually look this up. When was its heyday again? I believe like until the early 20th century was pretty big in, well, maybe mainly Europe, for Europe and America, for somewhat obvious reasons. But back to the original question, there are definitely racial tensions, a very strong example of them being with the elves, because they used to have long ago their own empire, but it kind of got, to put it lightly, obliterated during the Shattering, and now a large part of this, of their former empire has been annexed by the Empire, or, as they put it, integrated. And most of the populace of that place isn't too happy about it. Yeah, I mean, to quote Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, and you're a goddamn Malkavian. Yeah, I mean, because, well, the seat of their power, basically, the heartlands of their empire were pretty much exactly one of the hot spots of the Shattering, so that part of land just got pretty much vaporized. I mean, not literally vaporized, but broken up so extremely that everything that was standing there basically got ruined. And to add to it, elves are very due to their very magical nature, are very susceptible to the toxic effect of aetherite, which led to large spread aetherite plague outbreaks all across their territories, and it's still to this day one of the biggest problems of their race, that has kind of put them almost made them endangered of being extinct for a while. Maybe not anymore, but at the same time, a lot of the elves that live today in imperial territories still struggle massively with aetherite, and a lot of them also aren't technically fully pure-blooded, so to speak, elves, as their low population has led to a lot of their bloodlines being, mixed with mostly humans and other species. Not fully to being half-elves, but let's say some of the more ethno-nationalist movements among the elves put a lot of importance on bloodline purity amongst their kind, and keeping the bloodline pure, that sort of thing. Yeah, maybe 7 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10. Because, basically, these elves look more or less like you'd expect fantasy elves to look, while the quote-unquote pure-blooded ones look a lot more extreme, or let's say you can see a lot more of their Fey ancestry on them. So pure-blooded elves, a lot taller than humans, glowing or completely black eyes, sometimes translucent skin. Well, the Elfsberg chin would be more or less impossibly sharp for a human, at least. Generally just the features very angular and, well, fey. But in most parts of the world, these have become very rare. Mainly because they are incredibly susceptible to aetherite. So, unfortunately, the majority of them just died out after the shattering. I'm wondering how I should style this falchion. Probably in some, make it proper dwarven craft, and style it out with runes and the like. This handguard needs to go closer to the hand that it's supposed to guard. Vampires actually... hold on, let me pull up. Let us pull up the references. This one, this... vampires do actually play a not insignificant role in this setting. One of the main places... Oh, that is big. Whoop. A little smaller, please. One of the main places you'll find them is here, the Dark Forests of Grimm. Named so, perhaps not so, not too subtly, because it's basically a dark fairy tale forest. So, you know, like in the fairy tales of Brothers Grimm, but there's all sorts of other nasty beasties out here, werewolves, ghosts, witches, and of course vampires. The rulers of Grimm themselves are rumored, wink wink, to be vampires themselves, the enigmatic Grimm counts who have their secluded castles high up on the Grimsridge Mountains. Yes, exactly, the Goth homelands. So this is one of the most highly concentrated areas of vampires and similar ghoulies in this world, but there's also a few vampire bloodlines, dynasties, families, what have you, that either migrated west into the lands of the Empire, or who perhaps were there all along, who came there with the first survivors of the Shattering, and have stayed there ever since. You know, vampires, of course, being almost always aristocracy coded, they definitely have made themselves quite at home within the Empire. You know, some several noble families throughout the Empire are rumored or basically all but confirmed to be vampires. And, you know, as long as they don't do anything provably illegal, can't really do anything about the fact that they're vampires. I mean, they still pay taxes, they still, you know. I think now it's a bit too close. It's hard to get the proper distance, right? It might actually just be here. Actually, Aetherite, I mean, vampires are inherently magical creatures, but, so they do kind of have to watch out for, its, poisonous effects, but at the same time, they don't live, so they can't, so, you know, most diseases don't do anything to them. So while Aetherite can definitely damage them if they're heavily exposed to it, they can't really grow sick from it like other races can. Alright, I think I'm happy with this hilt shape for now. Well, the cloud ceiling, not really. You have to think, the cloud top, is basically, it's pretty patchy. There are just regular sunny days like we know them, and even if it's cloudy, there's usually enough sun piercing through that it's still sunny enough to be lethal for a vampire. Wonder what I could do for the pommel. We'll worry about it later. I think this is a nice shape for it. It's now time to turn our attention to the second arm. Make the torso a bit bulkier. Like this. Alright, so basically you're holding the blunderbuss by the barrel. Well, I mean, for a vampire to travel, they can just, you know, if they want to travel, they can just sleep and during the day, and if they're traveling on an airship, that is, sleep during the day and go on deck at night. Which, you know, obviously raises suspicion among the crew, but you make sure to pay them enough to not care. And, you know, have a steady supply of blood with you. Ideally not the crew, because then the money required to make them not care will probably go up quite a bit. And other than that, you know, traveling by airship for longer distances isn't really much of a problem. Well, yeah, there's certainly magic that can influence the weather, and also magic that can just, you know, block out light, darken something. But that's not exclusive to the Grand Reach. That's magic present and known to, especially vampires, for obvious reasons, in almost all parts of the world. Especially shadow magic is very useful for that sort of thing, but obviously, you know, for example, darkening the sky for an entire region or even a place as big as a town is very, very difficult. Floating Dracula Castle. Yibbity yoink. I thank you, my idea. Actually, what I'm thinking of now is Vampire Pirates. But that might be because I've played so much Total War Warhammer 2. Lastly, I still haven't bought the third one. I wonder if YouTube will copyright strike me if I play Tattered Sails on stream. Because it's just such a good shanty. Why isn't it in the game? Yes. Fortune favors the infamous. Luther Harkon is just so fun. I actually bought the Vampire Coast DLC not too long ago, but still haven't played it. Like, gameplay-wise, I should probably, if I ever play a campaign with them, play Count Noctilus, because he buffs Necrofex Colossi, which is just so cool. But Luther Harkon is just so much cooler than Count Noctilus. So, you know, Warhammer stream. I don't know. Like, let me actually check. I have that's a game. Total War Warhammer takes up so many hours of gameplay for just a single campaign. And a lot of it is just very repetitive. I don't know how well I could... How much playtime do I have in Total War Warhammer 2? 426 hours, and I've beaten 2 campaigns so far. The anatomy is a bit top heavy right now. I'm not sure I like that. Let's make the legs a bit broader. This, something like this, maybe. And yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to move this shoulder in a bit more still, because otherwise it's just gonna be a very noticeably top heavy, which isn't really the build I'm trying to go with the dwarves. Yeah, something like this maybe. Monster Hunter family, like the Melbonts, the Melbont family. That would actually be an interesting, like, idea for something like a campaign. Curse of Strahd meets Howl's Moving Castle. Or I guess Castle in the Sky. Well, a bit of both. Ooh, or I think like Silver Spear or something is a really cool name for a ship. Because, you know, like Whip obviously because of the Belmont inspiration, but Spear, you know, also kind of, not real, but in a way mimics the shape of a ship, you know, with the bow. Yes, the quadruple S, or what does S actually stand for with ships? You know, there's USS, which is United States ship. HMS, Her Majesty's ship. Maybe sovereign ship, or I don't know. Let me look this up, actually. Yes, steamship. Okay. No, actually, according to some of the sites I'm looking at here, SS stands for steamship, or single crew steamship, or yeah. So actually, nowadays, so nowadays ships aren't actually the SS ship name anymore because, you know, they're diesel powered, and in this setting they also wouldn't be that because, you know, they're still sail powered for the most part, at least. I mean, I guess there are some steamships and also other ships that run on other kinds of unusual propulsion that we wouldn't really have in this world. Maybe is this arm? Yeah, this arm is too long at the moment. It needs to be further down here. Here, yeah, then this works better with the hand. It's kind of fun just sketching around like this, not really worrying too much about mistakes. Slayer ship, yes, that makes sense. Oh, vampire piston. Such a stupid meme, I love it. Vampire piston. It's especially, one of the favorite things, I love about vampire piston is just the base assumption that a vampire, given just a single drop of blood, would regenerate with enough force that, you know, them reforming would just push the piston back up with enough torque to power whatever the piston is hooked up to. So silly. I love it. This little baby runs on eight single axis vampire elders. Okay, now hand-holding blunderbuss. So a large object. How would that look? So like this, this, and then fingies like. So kinda. Mhm. Yeah. I mean that's how it goes with most immortality, doesn't it? Bit of a monkey's paw. Though, you know, at least that's the moral with a lot of immortality stories, though I do kind of like the idea, at least a little bit, that, you know, sometimes immortality is just kind of neat. As the flavor text for the immortality perk in Total War Warhammer says, who wants to live forever? Question mark. Turns out most mortal beings wouldn't say no. So, the blunderbuss itself, how exactly should I position it? Maybe propped up against the leg? That's always an option. Like so, maybe. But I mean, that's kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's a bit boring. Let me actually, yeah. Let me stand up for this. And test this pose myself. All I need is 2 objects that shall serve as my falchion and blunderbuss. So kind of like this. Yeah, actually. Fae. Fae do still exist, though, you know, very rare. And ultimately something akin to, but legally distinct to, the what's it called in the fucking D&D lore? The Fey Realm, Feywild. That's what it's called in D&D. Does also exist. Another of these sort of separate places, sort of like separate dimensions, similar to, as previously discussed, Hell, but also accessible through, you know, both magical means and demi-physical means. For example, I think this actually, that's also the case, that's also how it works from time to time in D&D, that there's special places where you can pass through, and doing so means you end up in the Feywild. You know, stone circles, gateways, specific paths in specific forests, all very chaotic, all very hard to, definitively nail down, as this is the way it works. But there are means, and you know, in our world, the meme was, if a place exists, the British are going to try to colonize it. And in this case, it's, the Empire is going to try and colonize it. So they've actually tried to send several expeditions into the Feywild to establish outposts, with not that much success up till now. Yeah. Actually, so you actually film yourself, yeah, I just, basically, position myself and then try to draw how I felt the pose. Obviously you can't look at yourself in the third person without a mirror, but, just standing in the pose oftentimes, especially for simpler things, is already enough to get a better feel for how it should look, maybe what adjustments should be made. Like, for example, here, I have actually thought about, actually making photos or even videos for, stuff like animation, which I also dabble in, obviously, as my avatar can attest to. But I haven't actually done it thus far. Maybe I shouldn't have gotten rid of all of that. I turned 8 now. But, yeah. Bit more like this, and then a straight leg. Something like this. Are elves who are on the flying islands? God damn it. If you try to read YouTube chat directly from the source, the emoji button blocks the text messages. But the elves on the flying isles, if they're considered high elves, no, not all of them, though there are some that there are still of pure lineage, but especially in the more fractured parts of the world, Imperial territory and similar like that, most of the elves are more lowborn, or I don't know, I haven't come up with a proper term for it yet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because if you draw a pose, you don't really know how natural the pose is, but then once you're in the pose, you instantly realize, oh no, if someone were to actually stand in that pose, they would hold this arm differently, that sort of thing. Indeed, very useful. Now, what was it that I wanted to do about the arm? Could also just make it like this, but I feel like, or like this, but I feel like that would be a bit, I don't know, wouldn't be as dynamic, I think, so I'm gonna go back to... Okay. with its moon's moonwing. There are indeed several. And yeah, I definitely do. Let's say I have plans of doing stuff revolving heavily around the moons, but at the moment there's just the vague idea of, yeah, for example, moon rock from some moons having different properties, different moons, they're, what's it called? Penumbra and Autumbra having different magical properties and influences on the world. The way our moon controls the tides, these different moons control different magical tides. Think comparable to, for example, the blood moon in Terraria, that, if a certain moon is in a certain orientation around the planet, or especially close to the planet in its orbit for a time, that, certain magics like undeath surges, and you have a plague of undead throughout the lands. Oh, I accidentally pinned a message. Yes, something flying werewolf. Yeah, it definitely also, of course, werewolves being heavily influenced by the moon, and moons plural is a given, but and of course the age-old tradition of reading portents from the stars, and also in this case the way the moons are oriented about werehawks. Interesting idea. I think what was it? I think I had the idea that, while werewolves are definitely the most common, there are in fact other were creatures, were beasts, as the common name is. Alright, so idea was now with this that the hand is actually more here, and then blunderbuss is down but outwards. No, that's not the correct angle. Actually, that's an interesting, interesting idea. I know, were creatures that are themselves also fantasy creatures. I hadn't really spared that one too much thought. Maybe. I know that thumb is angled too heavily for such a big object. Yeah, so this could actually work. Yeah, actually, I think I like this. Cider, what was that again? Oh, god damn it. Is that a alternative way of spelling satyr? Because that's what I'm getting right now. Never mind. Of not that much consequence for the moment, I presume. Yeah. Yeah, I know the... I know this spelling, I think, is the one I'm familiar with. Right, I'm trying to figure out how to properly detail out this blunderbuss. I think it's still... should be angled a bit more like this. Actually, for once I'm gonna... Alakablam. Slightly like this, and also a bit higher. Gargoyles are actually like an interesting mythical creature because, you know, it's made out of stone and, you know, originally it is actually something that, you know, humans created themselves. I kind of like the, yeah, flying rocks. Would definitely be a new addition to this setting. But I kind of like the idea that there's something constructed initially, you know, by magical means, or at least brought to life by magical means. Maybe something like this. What exactly do you mean with wine supply? You mean, you know, having gargoyles as henchmen, or was it something I missed? Oh no, I don't have a Discord server yet. I have been thinking about making one. You know, both for you know, as a place to you know, display and categorize all the art, maybe some of the world building writing in written form, and also, you know, to as a handy way of informing people when I'm about to go live. But that's something I think I'm gonna wait for a bit. But, you know, in the meantime, about my art at least, you know, I have, especially for the world building stuff, both on, I think, Instagram and Twitter should be, all of the stuff I've created thus far, also in either case, labeled with the Shardreach tag. Oh yeah, I plan to do so. You know, but obviously the question that always, you know, comes up with a Discord server, though I guess that question already is in the room with streaming of, you know, moderation, that sort of stuff. So it's, I want to wait for now at least a little bit before I make any kind of public server, but it's definitely planned. I mean, gargoyles? Well, I mean, I guess making gargoyles able to fly definitely becomes easier with Aetheryte, but the magic required to, you know, bring them to life, I think doesn't have too much to do with Aetheryte. Alright, I think I'm happy with both of these for now, so we can start thinking about clothing. Probably, you know, it's a pirate, so overall simple clothing, but adorned with plenty of jewelry and other sort of knickknacks. Since, you know, historically, pirates didn't really have a place to... Probably just a regular privateer or private... pirateer or private... No. Not pirateer or private. Privateer or pirate. Tongue twister, I should probably get myself something to drink. You know, maybe some kind of officer, but overall still fairly standard. But yeah, as I was saying, historically, pirates didn't really have a place to store their wealth outside, or at least a convenient place to store their wealth outside of, you know, their own body, so they'd just wear expensive jewelry that was both for show, but also just to, you know, store all the gold. You know, gold rings, chains, that sort of stuff. It's always on your person, not that easy to steal. A part-time privateer, full-time pirate, depending on how legal that sort of stuff is at any given time. I mean, that's what it was like for a lot of pirates, privateers, also in our history. That, you know, any given war ended, privateering licenses are no longer valid. Well, guess we're pirates again. I mean, what are you gonna do? Just stop raiding merchant vessels just cause some war ended? No. This is your income now. What are you gonna do? So, I think first things first, a nice sash around the waist, as any good sailor, or in this case pirate, should have. Actually, let's put these on a new layer. Actually, before we do any of that, let's clean up this thing a bit more, shall we? A little bit more. Emphasis on the little. Doesn't need to be too clean, just somewhat legible. Yeah, like like one of those what's I know tricorn hats, but what are the one? I think they're just called bicorns, right? Yeah, bicorn hats. Just a bicorn hat, and on one side is written in bold letters pirate, and then you flip it around. On the other side, it's written privateer. Yeah, though, I mean, the benefit of a bicorn is, of course, that it's symmetrical, so, it doesn't really have a front side. You can even wear it sideways, which a lot of people did. So, so something like this, should probably establish, at least semi-solid ground levels around here. Again, using the bottom of the screen as a ruler because why not? Oh, hello there. Raid. Greetings. Would you like to inform me how I am to pronounce or read your name, or do you not mind either way? I hope you have a pleasant evening, night, whatever it might. Ride. Okay. Interesting. I hope you have a pleasant whatever time it may be for you. We are drawing pirates, or pirate singular at this point still, and talking about world building. This is a dwarven pirate, hence the somewhat compactor proportions. I mean, not difficult. I just wanted to make sure I'm properly pronouncing it. Yeah, I mean, though historically, well, I don't think pirates. I mean, I guess privateers were probably a bit gentler, but you know, not too much because. Oh wait, no, that was... I misread that message, that was by you, Moon. What I like about pirate designs is the handmade or crafted feeling that they can sometimes have. Not necessarily tailored, more something gathered and made on your own time. Yeah, that's... I totally agree, that definitely a big appeal of the pirate story, pirate aesthetic, that it's very... you know, cobbled together, but in a sort of, not in a random, but in a purposeful way. Every single piece of clothing, every accessory tells a story about who this person is, what they've gone through. Yeah, it did strike me, you know, with the proper pronunciation, did strike me as vaguely Arabic or similar. You know, I just hope I'm pronouncing it properly, but definitely not an issue on my side. Right, I know I'm still on the... God, totally forgot I'm still on the base layer. Time to actually... This is, I think, clean-ish enough. So time to move on to the clothing. No, what I'm using currently is a Wacom One graphical tablet. Honestly, I mouse drawing is really not something I'm very good or even any good at. Compounded by the fact that I'm left-handed, so mouse drawing is also with my offhand, with my right hand for me, so yeah, cleanish enough. That's the pirate motto. I mean, not the pirate motto, but that's definitely in line with the pirate, what's the mindset? That's the word. So, a good sash around the waist. Ideally pretty high-waisted. Then probably... let's see here. So, if the right, or I guess for this one, the left hand is the sword hand, it's always, you know, since I am left-handed, that's something I tend to do, you know, make the sword or dominant hand also the left hand. But, you know, it's not a big deal, I think. So that would mean that the scabbard or sheath would be on the right side, or, you know, for us, from our perspective, left side. Yes. Ah, yes. You're about to meet the Admiral of the third biggest fleet of the Empire. Better brush my teeth. Oh, really? Better brush my teeth than before. Rubs fingers over teeth. Scandinavian. Yeah. I mean, the dwarves definitely are supposed to have like a light Scandinavian, a bit of, you know, Celtic vibe here. And there's, you know, the standard accent people usually go with dwarves is obviously Scottish, but there's also some in my setting, for example, that are more Scandinavian, with also some cultural bleed between the two. For example, this is a world map of, or not world map, a map of one of the continents in this setting, and these this mountain pass here, is it visible? No, it's not visible. This mountain pass here, for example, is one where there's with also a large population of dwarves. Right above Mungir's cradle. Basically, this mountain range that kind of extends underground, and the tips of the mountains kind of peak above ground, creating these islands, but there's actually dwarven tunnels under this under the water, deep underground, that connect these parts. Yeah, it took a long time to create, and it's not even of the main area of this world, but still one of the more important ones. I am quite proud of it, though it's, truth be told, not entirely complete. It still needs a bit more detailing, and it's missing some mountain ranges here and there. Diggy diggy hole, diggy diggy hole. Born underground, grown inside a rocky womb. The earth is a cradle, the mountain shall become a tomb. Faces on the battlefield, you will meet your doom. We do not fear what lies beneath, we can never dig too deep. I am a dwarf and I'm digging a hole, diggy diggy hole, diggy diggy hole. Just like this. What's a proper shape for a scabbard like that? Probably something more simplerish, like this. Yes, the inner dwarf swampling within. Yeah. Though it's like basically since I'm assuming you haven't really gotten much of my previous explanations of this one. Let me just very quickly use some space here. The main area of this world is no longer solid ground after a apocalyptic event in the distant past, and is instead a lot of flying islands above a sea of clouds. So a lot of the mountain homes of the dwarves were literally just a lot of the mountains the dwarves in that region had their homes in literally just broke off and formed their own broke off from the rest of the ground and formed their own sort of islands. This means, of course, because of the a tectonic oopsie is one way of putting it, certainly. But you know, because of the way dwarves build their fortresses, their mountain homes, they, compared to a lot of the other civilizations, remained relatively intact through this whole thing, because they build very compact, very sturdy, very stable. Yeah, this now means that if you want to travel anywhere, you have to use... let me see if I don't have any good images here anywhere. You have to use airships. Looking somewhat similar to this one. And you know, this means that the civilization of this region is very heavy on you know, maritime travel. There's a lot of sailors and even among the dwarves, who a lot of them do prefer to stay in their now floating mountain homes, but few working on industry and similar. But some of them have, in the many years, decades, centuries since, decided to take up a bit more of an adventurous life. well, Moon, it's more of, I can't really think of a good, analogy of what exactly happened to the planet, but the basic gist of it is, if you have the planet here, it's basically that a large part of it just kind of splintered and shattered outwards. Like a big portion of the world just... So most of the pieces, or basically all of the pieces, are still there. Some of them just a bit too high now to be habitable. But, you know, they're no longer attached to the rest of the... world. Alright, so... Oh, well, best of luck studying then. It has been a pleasure having you here. I hope to see you again, but if not, then all the best to you. In either case, actually, all the best to you, of course. And take care. Alright, so that's the basics of the belt and sash done. Well, that's I'm happy to hear that you had a nice time. Then I'll be looking forward to having you here again. Alright, that's the basics of the sash done. Now I think I'll give him a goodbye. Give him a simple shirt, and over that, like, some kind of jacket. Actually... I'm thinking, how would I exactly go about, the outward pieces of the sash? Draped something like... Nah, I'll figure that one out later. Could also just be draped on the back side of the... Well, it kind of depends what his old work would be. I mean, a lot of pirates obviously are former sailors that just have, come onto hard times, who now, you know, use piracy to support, get the necessary money they need to sustain themselves. Right. Actually, let me decrease the opacity of this one a little bit. Right, so the shirt first. Some buttons here. Wrap around the neck like so. How would this... Oh yeah, skeleton, ghost ships and skeleton crews both exist, both in combination, but also sometimes separate. There are skeleton crews on non-ghost ships sometimes, and, you know, ghost ships with crews that aren't skeletons. Actually I have some... Where is it? Maybe here. Ah yeah. It's a bit of an... this bit of a messier piece of art, which is why I don't show it as frequently. And why is it over here? A piece of Imperial propaganda. Stop them! Battle the pirate threat! Enlist now! Provided by the Imperial Administration. You can also see their logo. Even when publishing this way back when was, I wrote under it, disclaimer, not all pirates are actually undead. Emphasis on not all. So, you know, the standard, you know, skeleton pirate in, like, barely functioning shipwrecks definitely does exist. Yeah, actually I hadn't thought about that, you know, nautiloid-like ships. There are a few candidates for something like that. Yeah, I mean, a militaristic authoritarian government, overplaying a threat, justify ever-increasing military buildup? No, never. But yeah, there are a few candidates for places that could produce something like a bioship, but it's an idea I haven't really played with too much yet. I'm trying to figure out how this shirt... What am I doing? I'm wearing a shirt basically like this right now. I just need to get a mirror. Right, so... yeah, something like this. And then the jacket. Let's see here. Short sleeves, cropped sleeves, long sleeves. Sleeves, I think. Yeah, probably cropped sleeves. Probably not cropped quite there. Probably still a bit of a outward thingy. Then going slightly over. Maybe something like this. Yeah, whaling is definitely... I mean, one idea I definitely had and that I've already implemented to some extent. I think I've ran like a tabletop campaign that was set, at least partially in that, is a giant floating carcass so large that they built a city inside of it to harvest all the stuff on the carcass. Like a enormous leviathan of almost incomprehensible size that died, either was killed in some great battle or fight, or just, died through unknown or natural means. And so to harvest all the valuable meat, tallow, and other the bones, marrow, basically everything valuable about the carcass, because it's so massive, there was a literal city built into the carcass. Well, the main purpose of the setting is primarily as a setting for, my personal tabletop campaigns, and, the dream maybe in the future would be for, other people's tabletop campaigns by making it into a, like, module or something, or even its own game system. But I do have some projects in mind, short stories, maybe comics, something like that, but nothing I would really consider like the main project, maybe, at least not for now. But yeah, there's like a few stories, for example, I already have in mind. The idea was to start with short stories, and go from there. I have even written a few paragraphs already, though. I haven't worked on it for quite some time. Should probably get back to that at some point. How do I make this? Probably some kind of hardened leather or similar, the material of the jacket. Should probably not continue on for too much longer, but I still want to at least decently finish this piece. This, and now we can move on to the pants. Probably pretty baggy. That's pretty much the norm, or, convenient. Yeah, that's also what it started out as. Basically just a setting for a few campaigns. Actually, the thing it started out as was as a region in another setting made by some friends. We were all in a tabletop group, and how was it? Yeah, exactly. We were like a tabletop group with like that played together for honestly pretty long time, all things considered. Though it's all in the past now. And the setting was created by two of my friends together. But the idea was to have several campaigns all in the same setting, but by different dungeon masters. So once it was my turn to, you know, be the DM, I wanted to like have a specific region where I could kind of do my own thing, and yeah, the idea of that region was like a sky realm with like floating islands. But then, you know, that group kind of dissolved. I did run a few like short mini campaigns in that subsetting, but you know, I was still left with all this work I'd put into this setting, and it grown very fond of me. So even though, you know, that sort of group fizzled out and the larger world, I think, isn't really being used anymore, I still continued to work on this specific section, and you know, once it became detached from the other thing, it became its own fully realized world with, you know, other regions also created by me, that are all, you know, at least somewhat in keeping with this theme of fractured geography and floating. Any aliens coming to investigate the newfound Aetheryte? Well, the thing with alien life in and of itself is already a big question mark, I'd say, for the moment. If, you know, there are such things as, you know, aliens the way at least we understand them. And the thing is, Aetheryte didn't only appear after the shattering. It's just that it became a hell of a lot more common after that. Certain cultures like the I still haven't settled fully on a name, but basically one of the cultures that eventually fused to become the Empire, the more Mesoamerican Aztec-inspired one, actually used and knew and used Aetheryte quite extensively, even before the shattering, which is why the races of that, which is why, or perhaps the other way around, which is because it's a bit of a chicken of the eggs thing, is that all the races of that culture are basically entirely immune to the negative effects of the element. I still need to spotlight those races. I still haven't fully settled on an umbrella term for them, you know, and at the same time the name of the culture they were originally a part of, something like the Truekin or something similar to that. Basically, initially a theology, very Aztec inspired, and in a lot of their civilization, yeah, it's still a work in progress name. I might settle on something different, or just, you know, a name that is in that isn't in English but in Nahuatl, the Aztec language, because, you know, that would make more sense, or at least inspired by Nahuatl words, maybe not direct, but a lot of their civilization was already airborne before the shattering, and from their perspective, it's basically like the shattering didn't lift them up into the air, but it brought all the other people that were previously on the ground up to them, which, you know, at first they of course weren't very happy about, or, you know, in some cases still aren't. Alright, so boots. Go with a more like a steel tip here, and then like a little runic or almost Art Deco, because I love me some Art Deco, and it's also despite, you know, in our world being somewhat anachronistic. Yeah. Finally, the sky belongs all to ourselves. We have the sky. We have mastered living in the sky, but we have it all to ourselves. Lol, said the universe. Lamau. There's actually also in some persistent rumors among some people in the Empire and other regions that the Trukin are actually the ones responsible for the shattering in some way, shape, or form, but there's no real historical evidence for that. But, you know, rumors are rumors, so... yeah, so about that, it's basically... Yeah, once the shattering happened, it's less so like in our history where, you know, the conquistadors, and the other colonizers came to the New World, in search of treasure, by choice, as explorers and conquerors. In this case, it's, you know, because the world was just kind of thrown into complete disarray, and the conquistador equivalent, so to speak, wasn't there to, you know, just hunt for riches and conquer new territory. They were just kind of trying to gain some living, you know, habitation space for them. But in this case, the contact of the two civilizations also played out a lot more equally matched. I mean, it was pretty, even in our history, the conception that, you know, the Europeans just kind of steamrolled the Native American cultures isn't entirely true, or pretty inaccurate. It took several centuries to fully conquer all of them. And more than just one genocide. But in this case, both sides were pretty equally matched, so the wars weren't really going... the wars over dominion of the new land, of the new land that was created or left after the shattering, wasn't really going anywhere, so eventually the result was a stalemate, a ceasefire, and eventually merging of the two cultures, because both of them now inhabited the same space, and at least in the Empire, the two cultures melded into one, which is why even today several centuries after all of this took place, there's still a very strong cultural undercurrent of Nahuatl, of Mesoamerican cultures present, mainly Aztec inspirations, but because that's the one I know the most about of all of them. But it's not too specific, the same way the other part isn't too specific of any European culture. Oh, there are definitely cultists following around similar ideas, though. They're located somewhere else entirely. But yeah, it's also the thing that especially one of the Truekin or Firstkin or whatever I would decide to call them in the end were oriented in a sort of caste system with different races inhabiting different roles in their society. A system, while not officially existing anymore, is still very much represented by the societal demographics, because class mobility in what is more or less Victorian England wasn't too great. Well, a bit like the Tau in 40k, though. The Tau in 40k were, what was it? They had I think 5 castes, which were all technically equals, and then the ethereal caste, which were above them. In this case, it was more, you have the leaders and priests at the top, then you have the warriors, and then, it's basically a tiered caste system. And the ones on the very top, the Tlato Highborn, let me see if I have any good images. Essentially owl people, to put it simply, are yeah, a bit like the lizard men, except for the fact that lizard men, I think in Warhammer Fantasy or Age of Sigmar, are more like, they're not really a culture in the traditional sense, because they're like genetically engineered, almost like robots, designed by the old ones to carry out their will. And while this culture was also very heavily theological, they weren't quite on the same level. But I could have sworn should be an image of one of the Highborn around here. Ah, here. It's a bit of an older one, so the look is a bit outdated, but I don't know why all of them insist on appearing on this part of the thingy. Yeah. Tlato Highborn, basically the priests and leaders in the under the Old World Order, in the old culture, but ever since the old traditions were more or less abandoned, and the cultural fusion happened, they still they still, of course, had a lot of status, power, and influence in the transitional period, which basically led to them being a lot of the actually gentlewoman in this case, Um, yeah. All right, Euler. Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah. A simple fact of the matter is, I like owls a lot. So yeah. Um, so they used to be, mostly priests, and now, of course, the culture they live in is more or less secular. So they're not priests anymore, but now they're nobles because they had the power during the transitional period of the cultures, and they handily kept that power in the new world, in the new system. Um, so they are obviously not the only aristocrats. There's lots of other dwarven, human, as I talked about previously, vampiric aristocracy. But they are somewhat unique that almost they may not be all aristocrats, but almost all of them are aristocrats. It's exceedingly rare to find highborn highborn family in the lower or even middle classes. Um, they like almost all of their dynasties are old money. Um, which, naturally leads to them being viewed with a lot of suspicion by the lower by the lower classes, especially the ones that weren't originally Trukin. And also actually by some of the Trukin, Trukin or whatever the name will ultimately be, are kind of viewed as traitors, especially specifically by those that still cling to the old ways, the old, cultural traditions, the old religion, which some of these noble families still nominally practice, but not to the level they used to. They're basically viewed as traitors who sold out their entire culture to, get a comfortable position in the new world, in the new way of things. So there are some, especially among the warrior caste, a lot of them rejected the idea of abandoning the older traditions and societal rules, and refused to integrate into the empire, and were either resorted to guerrilla warfare and were eventually killed, wiped out, or fled or were chased into remote regions beyond the Empire's borders, especially in the south, in the uncharted Southlands. More interesting names still pending, which is basically very jungle-esque in its climate. Alright, so... probably hurry up a little, because it is getting a little late. I see Moon is already succumbing to slumber. I think I'll, like, finish the basic sketch of this, and then I'll properly work it out later. But at least some of the things I want to complete on stream. Now, the sleeves of the shirt, probably... And a person turquoise waving speech to you too, Moon. I'm assuming that's supposed to be your indication that you have to take your leave, which is understandable, looking at the time. Only short sleeve, but still around the joints. Then the question, of course, becomes... how to conclude the joints? The sleeves, I mean. Yes, the 10-page Owl People lore manifesto is coming, and there is nothing you can do to stop me. But yeah, I mean, I understand it is late. And, you know, I am told that some people have to, like, get up at a certain time. Yeah, we need to quickly, we need to get more uncomfortable. Let's talk about, the inevitability of our own, complete annihilation or something. I don't know. What's like a... Maybe I shouldn't think too hard about what's like a supremely uncomfortable topic. There are plenty out there. I could dig up the voice, but it's probably testament to my own growing sleepiness when I currently don't really feel like it. Right, so... Actually, thinking every good self-respecting pirate should have at least a couple, at least one flintlock pistol stashed away somewhere. The question, of course, would be, where exactly would you put it? Oh dear, at this point my stomach chooses to remind me that I still haven't eaten anything for dinner. So yeah, I really shouldn't delay this much longer. Yeah, I'm quite happy with it. I still definitely, it's would probably be a good idea soon to start working with a transparency mask to hide the stuff underneath. And yeah, I'm thinking like I don't know what's the proper word for it, embossing, or probably not, but to have like basically jewelry on the jacket itself, like in, oh, I should probably lock this layer. Yeah, brigand. What's actually the proper definition of that word? Brigand. Yeah, just a robber basically, but it's I think a general enough, a non-specific enough term that it also applies to, you know, high seas brigands, you know. Yeah, I mean, embroidery is if it's thread. If you weave in thread of a different color or something, but the idea was more to have actual solid pieces of, I don't know, gold or something similar on top of the cloth, you know, attached via some, you know, holes that are worked in here and there. But you know, it's like a combination of both. Yeah, something like encrusted. I'm just gonna jot down the basics for now. Something like that. I still have to get the ship a bit proper so that it follows a proper flow. Something like that, and then have like more like have this basically be just cloth, probably with a bit of gold thread, and then have like proper pieces or like solid pieces of gold or similar in these. Yeah, something like that. Bejeweled actually might be pretty close to the correct thingy. Also, this belt still needs some more thingies. Now the scabbard is here. That probably had nice to have like a. Yeah, actually, yeah, it is kind of rare to find another creature user, but you know what's funny? I've actually not that, or actually, at this point, not even, not that long ago, it's actually been a little while, I've actually bought, because it was discounted, an unlimited license of, what was it, Procreate, but I've just, I haven't found the time to get into the software, so I'm still using this one. even though I already paid for an actually, you know, a different one. But you know, because I'm still very used to Krita, I'm, at least for stuff on stream, I'm still using this because with Procreate, the chances of me suddenly having to, you know, look up and how to do something and stuff like that are very high. So it wouldn't be that ideal for using it on stream. That said, I haven't really used it much either, so I haven't really had much of an opportunity to learn how to do it since buying it either. So I should really get on that. So in a way, thanks for reminding me of that, accidentally. Because, yeah, I need to remember to use it. I need to remember that I have Procreate, and I also need to remember to learn how to use it. Because, yeah, now that I think about it, I've drawn a few things now. Like, for example, the thumbnail for this stream. Thumbnail and, you know, doubling both as a thumbnail and as the announcement artwork. And some other stuff in Krita on my own time because I just forgot that I had Procreate. So, yeah. Thinking. Probably also would be cool to have some sort of decorative motif on the scabbard. And I think, don't worry, Moon. I get that. I know that feeling. Yeah, it happens whenever, the universe slips up and somehow permits two people of the same field to talk to each other for protracted periods of time. But yeah, basic gist of it is just that this is one of the best, in my opinion, or honestly, I don't even know any other free, fully free, 100% free drawing softwares other than this Krita. But, you know, I recently bought, actually, another one. But I'm still using this because, well, reasons, I guess. You think I should add skulls? I'm actually not too sure about skulls. I mean, it's the sort of thing you put on a flag, but I'm actually thinking of going with a bit more of a, you know, glitz, and glamour sort of look for this pirate, you know, decked out in like fine, maybe not fabrics but colors, although of course it's not colored yet. Maybe it will be one day. And you know, gold decoration everywhere. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely when you're in the middle of a big project, switching is hard, and like, I mean, I also used Photoshop for a time because I got the license for free thanks to my school, which is very a huge bonus because, you know, also has the entire creative suite, but genuinely, there's a few things that Krita can do that Photoshop just doesn't have properly. Like, for example, yeah, exactly, an opulent look. But, for example, when it comes to animation, you know, smooth, you know, if I want to here, I can just go to, like, Dockers and, animation timeline, bam, and I can animate this theoretically, if I was insane. And that's not something most other drawing softwares can just do like that. So, yeah, for all animation stuff, I'm not gonna stop using Krita, definitely. An opulent look because, you know, dwarves, do generally love their gold, don't they? And I think, like, that's the thing dwarves and pirates perhaps have most in common, loving gold, so so it makes sense to put it on full display here. Yeah. Animation, is easy on Krita. Animation work is always hard, no matter what. No god nor software can help you there. What I think I'm actually thinking about is with the head, maybe some kind of hat or maybe a bandana or something. One thing probably... One thing that probably would make sense in some capacity would be a sort of scarf or something. Though I kind of like it also with the bare neck here, but one thing that a lot of almost all sailors that sail on the Grand Reach, on the Mare Nubium, the Sea of Clouds, have is a bandana and usually also a pair of goggles, because you'll need those if you're flying through a cloud to protect both your eyes and your nose and mouth, your breathing from aetherite. Oh yeah, I don't even... God is probably just massively burnt out after finishing the biggest project in well ever. And that's why he doesn't come to Earth. He's just... You know, I'm finally done with the universe. I just... I need a moment, okay? I mean, yeah, honestly, that kind of makes sense. I mean, every artist, or I mean generally person that does big projects, knows the feeling of having like a big burnout after finally finishing that gigantic project you've been working on for ages. So, you know, maybe that's the reason. Huh. Finally, we've solved theology. Yes, as both a creator of things and as a god-adjacent entity, I can relate. You know, the downside of these semi-long-sleeved arms is, of course, not being able to show that much in the way of tattooing. But I think there's still ample space here to work with something here. Yeah, work in purgatory. And I think, once again, all artists can relate. Yeah, I think... And this is mostly my belly speaking, because I'm getting very hungry. I think I'm happy to leave it as is for the moment. Or actually, let me do one last thing, which is adding a transparency. Oh, it's locked. Adding a transparency mask to this. And then just kinda... getting rid of some of the clutter here. Oh, that's too much. So we can get a bit of a better look at this. Which beasts are you referring to? Which might already answer your question with a no, unless I'm... Yeah, definitely this... And the way it's turned out thus far definitely makes me want to finish it on my own time, or maybe, depending on when I'll stream art again on stream. Though I kind of prefer the idea of making, you know, having one drawing each for stream, for each stream. You know, as I think I'll say this probably every time I end a stream, but I'm going to try and stream a bit more frequently. Maybe even tomorrow, who knows. But if I do stream tomorrow, then probably some Cultist Simulator again. Alright. Yeah, I mean, gold plating would mean adding some color, which honestly, with something like this, I might actually do, and rarely do it, but in this case... Save as stream art 2. Very nice. And, yeah, that'll be that. As always, I'm very grateful to all who tuned in throughout and who are still in chat or listening or... Honestly, Eule, I imagined it would be a lot harder than it is, but, you know, in a way, almost the awareness of being watched. Obviously, I get sidetracked, because, you know, I'm also, you know, talking to an audience, but at the same time, you know, the underlying awareness of being watched for me kind of also helps with productivity, because it means I can't just randomly switch to doing something else entirely. You know, the show must go on, and part of the show is the drawing, so it means I at least stay on the ball. Yes. At least means staying on the ball a bit better. I mean, I don't know, I probably draw a little slower on stream, though honestly, I'm not even so sure about that. I mean, we've been going for 2 hours, 45 minutes now. Looking at this, I think normally I'm not much faster, and normally by now I would have probably gotten sidetracked with something else. So yeah, honestly, it's kind of not too bad for art, honestly. Though probably if I want to do something else that wasn't, you know, like a low stakes sketch like this, or like more or less just a doodle, nothing, if it was an actual project that I had proper investment in, it would probably be stressful, because, you know, my how to put it, like, own standard for quality is obviously higher there. Actually, I've my gaming hyperfixation in the slash addiction has since shifted away from Dwarf Fortress to Total Warhammer 2 at the moment, and who knows what it'll be next. But you know, it's always something, and it's always a problem. But yeah, at least for, you know, something more low stakes art like this, I think streaming actually helps, honestly, overall. Ah, now I know something that still needs to be added to this. Chest hair. Very important for a dwarf. Yep. Actually, yeah, I'm currently in an Empire campaign with Reichland. You know, the nation calls. But through playing it, I actually, you know, learning more about my preferred playstyle, I might actually go for a Dwarven campaign next because I just love artillery. And you know, playing defensively, statically, forcing the enemy to come to me. Mostly because I get overwhelmed pretty easily with all the formations if everything is moving. And I also just love the sight of seeing enemy infantry mulched by my Hellstorm rocket batteries. No, I can do that better. Hellstorm rocket batteries! That, you know, actually, dwarves might actually be a good candidate for next campaign because, you know, that's what they specialize in, playing statically, defensively, and with extremely powerful artillery. Well, the thing is, I still don't have Total War Warhammer 3, so I also don't have the Chaos Dwarves DLC. Though honestly, I'm very tempted to get it as soon as I get the game, which will be the next time it goes on sale. Because, damn, the Chaos Dwarves are really cool. I really like their aesthetic, their whole idea, their whole shtick. Oh, nice. Yeah, drawing while streaming and drawing while watching stream are both enjoyable. I can say from experience. So yeah. Yeah, so let's just wrap this up. So, as I was saying before, a big thank you to anyone listening, watching, viewing, whatever the case. It has definitely been my pleasure to be your host, and I hope to see you soon again. But until then, farewell.